Let's talk about molecular docking. Now, you might think, what is the difference between CAD and molecular docking, etc.? Of course, for the process of molecular docking, uh, you use CAD. Now, what is the process of docking? We'll just see that later. But let me just explain to you what are the two things which are being shown over here. Now, this grayish, creamish type molecule is referred to as a biological target, and this is being found to be a ligand or a drug molecule which is interacting with that of a biological target. So, I guess you got an idea of what is molecular docking. Docking is a process which attempts to find out the best matching between two molecules, that is, a best fit between a biological target and its ligand, which is the best match which is possible between these molecules. That is analyzed by a technique called the docking. And coming to a very serious definition of what is docking, given two biological molecules, you try to determine whether the two molecules will interact, and if so, what is the orientation that will maximize the interaction while minimizing the total energy of the complex. And the main aim of docking is to be able to search a database of molecular structures and to retrieve all the molecules that can interact with the query structure. So, you are taking here, it is a process by which you will try to find whether the biological target will interact with a particular ligand or a particular drug, and then you see which drug or which ligand which will be used, which will bind with the biological target with the least binding energy. You know what is the significance of least binding energy. If the interaction of two molecules needs lots of energy in a biological system, we will not try to do it. Only those molecules which are having which need the least binding energy will interact at a faster rate in a biological system. So, by the process of docking, we are trying to find out whether two molecules will interact and in what orientation they will interact, and in which orientation, that is, if I turn it in which direction it will interact, or which is having the least binding energy of the particular complex. That is what is called as docking. And some definitions which we come across the process of docking is, you have the ligand or the key. It is a complementary partner molecule which will bind to the receptor, and the ligands are often small molecules. Also other biopolymers can also be used, and the receptor or the lock is a receiving molecule, most commonly a protein or the biopolymer, or that would be considered to be as a biological target over here. And then you have a lead compound. In the drug discovery pipeline, I had showed you a lead molecule. It is a compound that shows biological activity which is novel, and it has a potential of being structurally modified for improved bioactivity as well as selectivity. So, by the process of docking, you are trying to find out what all target ligands are there and which will interact with the receptor or the lock or the biological target, and among these ligands, which is showing a biological activity which has been found to be novel and which can be further modified to be a better drug. So, you do remember in the previous slide I had showed you. In this slide I had told you, you have a target here and you have different hits, that is, these are different ligands, and then only two of them are coming as leads, that is, they are the ones which are showing what? These properties, that is, showing biological activity which is novel, at the same time which can be further structurally modified or improved for the bioactivity as well as the selectivity. Now, to find out the drug or your biological lead, you can two different ways by which you can do docking. You can either use a ligand based method or a structure based method. In a ligand based method, a model of the biological target is built based upon the knowledge of what it binds to, what binds to it, and this model is in turn used to design a new molecular entities which will interact with the target. So in ligand based method, you will make a model of this biological target as well as the particles which will, so you will make a computer model of that, and then you will look whether it is interacting. Now in structure based method, using the structure of the biological target, candidate drugs are predicted to bind with high affinity and selectivity to the target, may be designed using interactive graphics and other intuition of the medicinal chemist. So here two different approaches are there. First you take you take different ligands over here and you look whether you prepare a biological target, and then you check whether the ligands are binding to it. Okay, so in the second case, what happens, you are taking the structure of the biological target, and then with that structure you are predicting probably, okay fine, this could be something this could be something which will interact with the active site. You are designing the ligand over there. Okay, so you are predicting it using various graphic techniques. So the most predominantly I guess we use here is a ligand based method, the most commonly used one. And docking studies can be protein-protein docking studies, where the molecules are rigid and the interaction mainly happens between two different proteins, and what happens, the interaction will not produce any change in conformation. It is somewhat like a lock and a key mechanism where you interact two different proteins. That's what a protein-protein docking involves. Or it can be a protein ligand docking. That times a protein has been taken, okay, and then you take a ligand also. The ligand is a flexible, but the receptor protein has been found to be rigid, and the interaction will sometimes cause various conformational changes in the ligand. Okay, so that's what is happening over here. Now when you take an enzyme and when you try to interact it with a ligand, it becomes a conformational changes would happen. So docking can be either by protein-protein docking, or it can be a protein ligand docking. Now the steps involved in molecular docking, you will determine the lowest free energy structures for the receptor ligand complex and search the database and rank the hits for the lead generation. I told you there are various target molecules, various ligands are being taken, and then you find out which is the one which is having the least binding energy, and based upon the ones which are having the binding energy, like if you have 10 compounds and among 10 compounds they are all interacting with the biological target, you find that among these 10 compounds 5, 4 and 9 are binding with the least energy. So you will say, okay, rank 1 is given to 9, then it is given to 7, then the next one. So based upon the least binding energy you will rank them. Okay, and then calculate the differential binding of the ligand to two different macromolecular receptors. That is, you will check the binding of two molecules, what is its difference in binding of this ligand to two different macromolecular receptors, that is into two different biological targets, and you will study the geometry of the particular complex, how is it, and you consider modifications of these lead molecules. Sometimes what happens is, if you modify the particular lead molecule, you might get a better interaction. You will try this. Then next one is the de novo design of the lead generation. Now if you will propose a particular design for that so that it becomes better, and then a library design of that has been created. Now I'll give you a case study so you will have an understanding. Now the identification of inhibitors for simultaneous inhibition of anticoagulation and anti-inflammatory activities of snake venom phospholipase A2. Okay, in phospholipase snake venom, there is phospholipase A2, one enzyme has been present. Okay, now if you want to find out anti-venom compounds, you have to inhibit this particular enzyme. So 1,69,000 compounds were being searched in them, and after that you can find that you get 300 compounds, and these 300 compounds are being molecular docked using phospholipase A2, and among that you find that 32 promising compounds were being found. I guess you got an idea of what is this. So, and this is a process of molecular docking which is being used, and we can use a wide range of a wide range of softwares for the molecular docking. We will be talking about that in the next session. So, the process of molecular docking is you are checking whether how far what happens a biological target and a ligand is being matching with each other, or how much ease with which they will interact, which are the compounds which are having the least binding energy. That's what we are finding out, and we use some softwares for that. We will be discussing that in the coming classes. Thank you for now.